My name is Rebecca Parham of Let Me Explain Studios. I do traditional animation in Flash on YouTube. It is my YouTube channel, Let Me Explain Studios, and I basically do that as a job, you know. And the way I always explain it to people who have no idea what YouTube is, I just say, well, I make cartoons, I post them online, and enough people watch them that I can make a job out of it. and well, I went to school for animation. I went to Ringling College of Art and Design. I got my BFA in computer animation and a minor in business of art and design. And I went through the entire program, and it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I lost a lot of hair, lost a lot of weight, and then they set us off into the world. And I immediately went back home to work on my portfolio to try and get into the studio world, because that's what Ringling told you that you absolutely must do.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a entrepreneurial family who then said, Becca, you don't have to work for studios. You can have your own studio. So I made my own studio. It was an official LLC. And I started to just do freelance work under it. And in the meantime, I was making YouTube videos and getting my foot in the door with a lot of other established YouTubers. And then one day my channel just took off, and here we are. And it's kind of interesting to talk to a lot of my old alumni friends who are working in the major studios, and they just ask all the questions about what I do, even though I think that they have like the coolest job ever too. So it's a lot of fun. So I think that's kind of the general overview. So go for it, Jordan.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, my name's Jordan. My last name is Comeaux. That's how it's pronounced. The name of the channel that I work for is Jaiden Animations, but I do my own channel as well called the Pivots XXD. But I'm so focused with Jaiden right now, I'm not even worried about my channel. So right now, that's my full time. I'm specifically an in-betweener, not just like an animator, you know. I'll show you guys that later, but that's really all I've been doing for the past 3 years now. I do some things here on the side, but typically it's just been full-time Jaiden. Oh, I hit my microphone. Sorry. This is also my first ever like panel thing. I've never spoken to people before. So hi, I'm nervous.
So Jordan, tell everybody if you went to school or are you self-taught?
I am completely self-taught. I have nearly 12 years under my belt.
That is so cool, because
Yeah.
you should see his work. He's so great, and it's proof positive that you can absolutely become a professional animator without the art school experience if necessary, and if you have the drive and ability to teach yourself. So, and there's a lot of different ways to success, and sometimes it's through art school like I did, and sometimes it's self-taught like Jordan. And yeah.
Hopefully we both have like good enough experiences to share with everybody.
Thank
you, Rowan.
I think you guys do. You guys are awesome. Yeah. All right. So ready for question 1. So general, how did you get started on YouTube?
Rebecca.
Well, basically the channel that I had before I even started Let Me Explain Studios was my personal channel. At first I made AMVs, which are animated music videos where you just splice together clips of whatever you have, whether it's anime or cartoons. My favorite was Ed, Edd n Eddy. And I just spliced all those cartoon shows to weird audio that I had and weird music I had. And that was my first taste of like making content online for YouTube. And I was really, really good at it in the beginning, but no one was making a job out of it back then. So, you know, got to do animation. And then I just started uploading, you know, my school projects and all that kind of stuff. And that's when I realized, you know, this personal channel of mine, it's not very brand friendly. If I want to like have a channel for my company, Let Me Explain Studios, I just got to start afresh. So I made a new channel, and that's when I just started posting things that were sometimes, you know, more my personal stuff, and then sometimes it was more like client driven. I haven't posted client driven stuff in a long time, and now it's just my official channel. And that's basically how it started, except, you know, the one video that really kicked it off was this video called How to Creep Out Your Favorite YouTubers at Conventions. And I felt like I could like say a lot about that because I love going to YouTube conventions. I love going to conventions in general. A lot of high energy stuff there, and it's really fun to mingle and network. And
Sorry.
that was Baby Jim, right?
Yeah, that's my bird. She's here with me.
So so if you hear a squeak randomly, then that's baby Jim the bird. But anyways, so and I made that video, and I had a lot of friends who, you know, were established YouTubers, and a couple of them gave voices for that video, and it blew up. And that's just kind of what skyrocketed the whole channel. So yeah, that's how I got started.
I remember watching that video. I remember when you posted it.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Oh, a very long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nicole says, I remember the things animation girls say. I think that shaped my desire to become. Aw, that's sweet. I'm glad.
That's awesome. Let's see. My turn now?
Yes.
All right. So I do have a channel, but it's not my main focus, like you, Rebecca. But what started it was just my passion to create content and show it off to the world. I wasn't, wanting to do anything big with my channel. I just wanted to create something. And the username, the Pivots XXD, was randomly generated, but I used a program way back in 2008, 2009 called Pivot Stick Figure Animator. And I just based my channel off that. But I never figured out how to upload videos from the program, so I switched to Flash, and here we are. That's pretty much it for me.
That's pretty nice, actually.
Yeah.
That's how you made the switch into Flash. I actually, all throughout Ringling, they zeroed in on, they only ever taught us pencil animation or
Really?
3D animation. So it was those two, but they never let us touch Flash. They never taught us Flash. It's now called Animate. And it was after graduation, I picked up a commission from a friend of mine named Danebo, who's the annoying orange guy. And he's like, so can you like animate this music video for me in Flash? And I'm like, sure. So it was very much a trial by fire, learning on the go, learning on the job kind of thing for my first using of Flash. And it was after school. So it's never too late to pick up a new software.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I think I picked up Flash when I was 12.
Gosh.
I was very, very little. I wanted to do it right there. I was ready.
No, that's good. It's a good head start. Like I mean, the one thing that I always tell parents is that you got to watch what your kids are doing, because if they are picking up something like drawing or something creative or something science related, building something, and that is holding their attention more than TV, video games, the internet, then that is probably what they're supposed to be doing. You can kind of tell from an early age, because I was performing and singing and drawing and telling stories, ever since I was like 3 or 4 years old. So
Yeah, same.
All right, kind of on the topic of school, we do have the next question, which is, how was the transition from school to workplace? And Jordan, you can interpret this as like, how is it from being, I guess, not working to working?
Yeah, I'll let Rebecca go first, since she's
So
Go ahead.
Ringling is, one of those big schools. It's one of those schools that everybody talks about. And very, very many of the alumni are usually expected to go out and get like the major studio jobs. Like on the 3rd floor of the main building where the computer animation major is, they have in all of the hallways from floor to ceiling, the walls are lined with movie posters and game art posters and all that of things that alumni had worked on. And you have everything from like The Lion King to like whatever the next, Sony movie is out, or the next DreamWorks or Pixar. We have alumni everywhere. And there's kind of this expectation with Ringling that you have to go out there and get a big giant studio job. You must have your name on this wall and on a poster. And so what they basically did was they had like a whole class called portfolio class, where it taught you how to do job interviews at these major studios. You had to pick a major studio that you wanted to work with. And we did like mock interviews and all that kind of stuff. And we had to like create our own logos and like have a visual design for our portfolio. And so there was a lot like riding on getting a job or an internship or something immediately out of school. And that was hard because it was the kind of a dry spell for jobs when when we all graduated. So not many people got the internships or the jobs immediately out of the gate. And there's something that, you know, a lot of students and a lot of alumni from Ringling never really talk about. And I was able to kind of put a name to it in one of my videos, and they come back and tell me all the time, oh my God, Becca, yes. And it's something called the post-Ringling depression. And that's basically you just kind of are so caught up in the work and you know this you know feeling of I have purpose if I have work, and I'm going to go out there and make it big, and I'm going to make everybody proud. And when you don't immediately get that out of after graduation, you just kind of go so it was actually really, really rough transitioning from school. So if you find yourself a little bit like on the depressed side after you leave school, especially if you're having trouble getting work, that is entirely normal. So you know, don't just kind of be aware of that and don't let that get you down. You just got to keep trying and keep going, and you will eventually find a foot in the door somewhere. But for me, I was trying to do the normal route, but like I said, mom and dad were like, no, 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 no. You're going to be your own boss. You don't need to work for the man. You'll be the man. And that was hard in and of itself because I really didn't know what I was doing there either. And that was, you know, a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, you know, starting my own business and going into business for myself, being my own boss, and just fighting for freelance the entire time. And that's hard. I will say that. It's nice to have freedom. It's nice to, you know, set your own hours, and just if you need to go to the store today, you don't need to ask a boss anything. You can just go. But it is hard because, as you know, as I've heard it put before, you only eat what you kill. So you don't have a paycheck coming to you at the end of the month. You have to make sure that money comes in by getting the job and putting in the work yourself. So it was really a really hard transition from school to the workplace. But I will have to say you need to expect that. Just be you know, be forewarned about that.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good advice. See, I would never give advice like that because I have no experience. I did go to school for a bit, but not for animation. I just went to college because, you know, parents, but I dropped out real quickly because it just wasn't for me. You know, I really didn't like it. Every class I took, I tried to take graphic design. Everything that I was being taught, I already knew because I started so early. You know, I already know Photoshop, I know Illustrator, I know After Effects, I know Premiere, you know, and that's all the stuff that they were teaching me. So I was like, and since then, I've kind of just been freelance ever since. I've tried to get into the studio, but I'm so comfortable that I'm not worried about it really. I don't have good advice for this question. But you know, it was hard for a very long time. And like Rebecca said, don't ever like expect something to be given to you. You should always like keep your chin up, you know, go in head high, but like don't expect anything. Just be confident. Always have confidence.
Well, and
You know?
and I one bit of advice that I would give about actually like going out there and trying to get a job is that even if you don't feel you're qualified for the position, apply anyway. You know, get into the swing of applying to many different places, and sometimes you actually are qualified for the job and you will get that interview and you'll realize, oh wait, this is something I can do. Something that I see a lot in animation students and really just animation folks in general in the industry is imposter syndrome, where we think very little of our own abilities and our own capabilities, and we feel like we don't deserve the position that we get at these studios. And any moment someone's going to figure out that we're not all that special, or that, you know, we're a fraud. And try to fight that state of mind. Always like realize your own talent, and that's gonna be really, really useful for you. And it's also gonna be like less energy worrying all the time if you have confidence in your capabilities. You know, always know that you can improve and learn, but be proud of where you are and where you've been. You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you for the advice. Really encouraging.
Yeah.
So getting into how you guys make the videos, I know, how do you start a new video and like what is your type of pipeline that you use?
Jordan, why don't you start on this one?
All right, cool. So I'll go on behalf of Jaiden, I guess. So with Jaiden, she will pretty much do all the pre-production herself. She'll write everything, record everything. And then she sends the audio off to an audio editor. I'm not sure what his name is. He goes by Noodle. But he sends it back within a couple days, and then Jaiden will put out a shot list and everything and split up the audio into files for everybody. And I can actually screen share. This is what I have ready for you. Cool. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Cool. I don't know if it looks good or not, but you could see off to the left, shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, which frame it starts on, and then there's a short description. And Jaiden types all this stuff out. And we're a little behind. Don't judge us. It's a big video. But we're currently working on like a really, really big video. We currently have about, we on average, we have 15 or 16 scenes. This video has 37. So this is quite the big one. But this is how, it starts. And then the storyboarders will take this information and they'll just get to work. And let me see here. How do I, new share? Now we're talking. See, I'm learning Zoom. Look at this. Can you see this now? Did this work?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cool. So you guys can see Flash. So our storyboarders will do their thing. In this case, Jaiden did the storyboard. But we have a full team. We have about 3 storyboarders, 3 keyframers, and 3 in-betweeners. And then we have Jaiden, who kind of hops around with everything. So this is what our boards look like typically for the videos. And I live stream all the time. I don't know if anyone watching right now has been to my streams, but I show this off all the time. I'm very proud with how this scene came out specifically. So our storyboarders will finish. They'll send it off into the Dropbox. The keyframers will take it and then they'll clean it up. And our keyframers are fantastic. They really like nail Jaiden's style, I'm very proud of our team. We've come so far. Sorry. So yeah, we get the keyframes and everything, and then our in-betweeners, everything's first come, first serve, by the way. I wanted this one though. I in-between this. Oops. So, and here's the completed scene, full of in-betweens and everything. I have the audio muted. But yeah, this is typically how we make our videos. And after a scene is complete with in-betweens, we send it back to Jaiden. She does any lip sync and any, final edits.
So,
and then she
out of
uploads.
all the steps of that process that you just showed right there,
Mm-hmm.
how many different people did that switch hands?
So about 3.
Mm-hmm.
Typically there'd be 4, but Jaiden did the storyboards for this one. So yeah, it goes Jaiden, border, keyframer, in-betweener, Jaiden.
Mm-hmm. So then after animation, what happens?
She does something. I think she puts it in Premiere and then uploads. I don't know what she does.
Edits everything together, I suppose, and adds, any other sound effects, clean, maybe composites for certain things, music, all that.
And in-screen too. In-screen's a big YouTube thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. The in-screen kind of has defined the art form a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like you gotta build your art around the concept of surviving on YouTube. So we're not going to have a traditional like episodic setup like you would see on Disney Channel or Nickelodeon. You have to acknowledge your audience, maybe put in a merch plug at some point, and then you also have to, if you want to do a call to action at the end of everything, you have to do like, comment, subscribe, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely a different system entirely because it's just a different platform entirely. And it's so much more involved with the audience that you have to make room for that within the art itself, which is something you never have to do on television or in movies. Mm-hmm. So yes, definitely. So
that's typically how a Jaiden video is made.
Yeah. So basically, like Jaiden, I do a lot of the pre-production stuff. I write the script. I record all the audio. I myself, like, the other thing that you have to realize is Jaiden has a huge team compared to me.
Yeah, we
And
have
I have, yeah.
11 people total, including Jaiden, and we just added a new keyframer.
Mm-hmm. So Jaiden works on a much larger scale than I do. So I work typically with about 3 people regularly, and every now and then I'll have somebody else come in, and they're basically my storyboarders, and one person is able to switch between storyboarding and background design and background art. So I do pretty much a large portion of the work, and that includes, writing it, recording it, and I am very much a stickler for sound and getting the right take. So it's very hard for me to like hand over the actual audio editing process, even though it is my least favorite part of the process, because I hate having to listen to 8 takes of the same line and be like, oh, is this one better? This one's a little different, but I did a weird P sound at that. Like, I hate that, but it's also wildly important to me. So I take on that myself. And then as soon as I've got it into audio lock, then I split it up into pieces. I let my storyboard artist listen to it, and it's kind of a first come, first serve basis. And they decide, okay, I want part 1 and I want part 7. And basically they'll check in with me, give me thumbnails, and I'll say, do this, is that, do this, is that, that. And if there's any unclaimed bit of storyboarding, I'll storyboard that myself. And as soon as I get all the storyboarding back in, I immediately jump into the animating myself. And I would say it's one of the harder things about jumping into bringing on other animators is finding people who are able to seamlessly take on your style and make it look like you were the one that drew that. And we've learned in the past that the audience is picky about that on YouTube.
Yes.
They will absolutely like wreck someone if they can tell that one shot was animated by somebody entirely differently than this shot. So I have to
wild.
I don't know why.
They just I don't get it. I don't get it.
So I have to give a lot of credit to the people on Jaiden's team, keyframers and in-betweeners, because you guys really do all keep it very, very on model and very, very consistent. So I think, so I think that's gonna, like, for me personally, I would love to bring on more I would love to bring on animators in general to help streamline everything, but that is always a process. So basically, I animate everything. I put it all in Premiere, edit it together, add all the sound effects and the end card, and then upload it. Well, and make a thumbnail. Thumbnails are actually wildly important.
Thumbnails, that's something I'm terrible at thumbnails. I always have to get like all my friends to critique the heck out of it.
Yeah, thumbnails are an art form in and of themselves, and they are kind of this, like, you use all of these like rules of art that you learned in like your most basic art classes, like composition and balance and harmony and variety and all that kind of stuff. And it's a trick in getting the most out of one image and making it as enticing as possible to click on that video. And that's a challenge in and of itself,
Yeah, I always struggle with thumbnails.
Yeah. So that's one thing that YouTubers have to think about as well, is that how do I sell this video that I and my team have worked so hard on? How do I sell this video to someone who is having like an endless stream of videos thrown at them with just one image and a title? And it ain't easy, trust me.
Yeah.
So
thank you guys for sharing. Sorry, I'm really bad at this transitions into questions.
No, it's fine. We all are.
All right, so next one is how it is being your own boss, not being in a huge overarching studio setting.
So I would say being your own boss has a lot of good things about it, and it has a lot of challenging things, because when you are the boss, everything is on your shoulders. Your name is on everything. So you take responsibility for everything. You take responsibility. Like if one of your artists messed up and it reflects badly upon you or the video that you made, that is your responsibility. You take full responsibility for that. You say, you have to apologize, you have to claim it and say, that was my bad. And you can't pass blame onto one of your employees or one of your workers. And so you have to be extra careful about the things you put out there, and just the quality of stuff and the jokes you make. But at the same time, being your own boss is great because you have, complete creative freedom to do what you want. You have control, you own everything that you create. And that's a huge thing in the studio world, is that if you work for a studio, anything you doodle while on the job belongs to the studio that you're working for. So you could be like doodling on a napkin at lunch, and that technically belongs to the studio. So it's nice to own your own work as your own boss. You set your own hours, you make all the rules, and there's a lot more flexibility in your day-to-day life. You don't have to ask a boss. You don't have to ask your supervisor, hey, can I have like 2 weeks off at the end of this month? You can just do it, which is really, really nice. Like, I wanted to go live in LA for 3 months, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that because I'm my own boss, and this is, my work, and I can just do it from anywhere. So, what else is there? But when it comes to working in a studio, you have to understand that it takes a lot of time to get things approved, because every single script, every single change, outline, everything along the process of making one of these cartoons has to be approved by like 4-5 different people. And you make your changes, you send it off, and you wait and you wait and you wait. And it's a very long, drawn out process. And if a producer says, I don't like this joke, I don't like that joke, and I want you to add a character that we can make a plushie out of, then you've got to do that. You can try to argue your points, and that happens a lot in the studio world. You fight with your producers all the time, but a lot of the times you have to do what the producer says because they're the one writing the check. And you have to do what the network says because they are especially the ones writing the check.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's difficult, is that you as the artist have a vision for the work, but it is constantly getting pushed and pulled around by people who are much more powerful than you, who you have to do what they say at the end of the day when it comes down to it. And that can be frustrating, and it can just take a long time. And you don't have full creative freedom. So, but you do have an amazing budget. You have an amazing team that you're working with, and you have far more eyes on your work than if, you're here on YouTube, potentially. Unless you are playing at ridiculous numbers, which I think, Jaiden and James are kind of getting to that point.
Yeah.
where they're working with ridiculous numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But you ultimately, when you have a studio behind you, a lot of things are taken care of. You don't have to worry about merchandising. You don't have to worry about promotional material like posters or commercials or anything like that. That's all taken care of for you. And it's nice to be, a part of something huge like that, and something that has the potential to make history. Because who here wasn't influenced by Disney movies, Who here didn't have a childhood that was absolutely filled to the brim with Disney movies? And those artists, influenced our lives as children, influenced us as adults. I would say that a lot of you are probably involved in animation because of those artists who created those movies. So that's really, really nice to be a part of something that means something to a lot of people because they potentially grew up on it, But at the same time, we're also doing that on YouTube now. So so I haven't gotten to the point where someone comes up to me and says, I started watching you when I was 6. I have friends, though. Like my friend Tomska, he's had a lot of people who are like, I grew up on your stuff. And he's like, oh, I'm old.
Oh God, Tom, I watched him when I first started. So yeah.
Yeah. And he's he just turned 30, I think. So he's
Really?
not actually old. He just had a really early start online. But anyways, so getting back to, being your own boss versus working with a studio, it is nice to work with a studio because you know what your paycheck is going to be at the end of the month. You know what money you have. And when it comes to YouTube, you don't know what that number is
Mm-hmm.
going to be. And it isn't all just your money. You have to pay your artists. You have to, you have overhead in running a business. And so there's a lot of, money work that you have to do. You have to plan out budgets and make sure you have enough to pay your artist. And sometimes you have a terrible quarter. Sometimes you make a terrible video that just absolutely flops and you spend a lot of money on it. And you, as the business person, have to figure all that out. And that's another thing about being the boss, is that you need to learn how to be a business person. And so many artists are not confident in their ability to do that, or they don't feel they're capable of doing it. And it is hard because it is a whole new world you have to learn, and business is frustrating at times, and it's confusing. And I hate doing the money stuff. I hate doing the financial work and answering emails. I just want to be an artist. But in order for me to have this job, sometimes I just got to have like one of those days where I just sit down and crunch the numbers,
Mm-hmm. God, I can listen to you ramble all day, Rebecca. I really can.
Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add on that?
Well, I'm not technically the boss. I have hired people in the past, but really, like everything you said, I couldn't have said it better. Like you have to, really take responsibility for a lot of things. You have to keep up with a lot of things. Like the reason I'm not making videos right now is because I don't have the money to make videos. Like I want to make videos, but I would rather wait until I can hire a team, because I just can't do that right now. I can't do it, like put all my time on it, because right now I'm just working with Jaiden. And I'm very comfortable just doing that. I'm happy sitting back, not worrying about having to make videos. But yeah, that's, like I said, you said it best, Rebecca. You really did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I would say that there is absolutely zero shame in wanting the studio setup.
Oh, yeah.
And there's zero shame in wanting to work for another artist and not have to be the boss, because there's a lot involved in being the boss. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, there are parts of it that I don't even like. I hate
Yeah.
the stress of having to worry about money and all that. I just want to be an artist majority of the time. So if you are absolutely happy working for a YouTuber, working as in freelance, or working in a major studio as, anything from a board revisionist to like director, then by all means, if that's what makes you happy, there's no shame in that. Bird.
Yeah.
Sorry, she's so distracting.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, so whatever makes you happy, and if you find that spot out there in the
Mm-hmm.
industry and you are actually happy, then no shame.
For real.
Like, and I spent too much time worrying about what my alumni from school and what my teachers from school were going to think of this whole YouTube gig. I spent way too much time worrying about that, and come to realize that a lot of them think that I have the cool job. So
Yeah.
I think all of us are always jealous of other people.
Well, greener on the other side of the fence,
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Well, when it comes to creating online content, or I guess just art in general, have you ever experienced burnout? And if you have, how have you dealt with it in the past?
Oh boy. Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure Rebecca's had, you've had your fair share of burnout. My bird's biting my neck. So me, of course, I've dealt with burnout. I've learned how to deal with it, though. Like I've said, I've been animating for 12 years. I've been pretty much doing this for 12 years, what I've been sitting here doing. And my habits when I first started were horrible. Like, you really need to take care of yourself. I would wake up, animate, go to bed. Wake up, animate, go to, like, really, I'm serious. That's how, like, that was the amount of motivation and drive I had when I first started. Clearly, that's all gone. But when I would hit, a big wall, a big burnout wall, the biggest thing is really to just stop and take a breather, take time for yourself, take a week off. If you can afford it, take a week off, like even a weekend. Like, sorry. Hi. another good thing is to, if you're staying freelance like me, form a schedule. Give yourself a set schedule. Just because you can say, oh, I can give myself whatever hours I want. Like, no offense, Rebecca, I'm not trying to say like what you were going off of what you said earlier, give yourself your own hours, but like giving yourself a schedule is really nice. Like I try to get off my computer after 5 p.m. Unless I want to play a game. If I'm playing a game, then I'll stay on. But like work-wise, I try to stop after 5. I really don't like working past 5. I will if I have to. But really just taking time for yourself, self-care is a really big thing in this sort of, this job, this industry. Where you're in studio or freelance, you really have to just take care of yourself.
Well, and I would agree entirely
Mm-hmm.
about, give yourself a schedule. And I mean, just because I
Oh
say,
yeah.
you can set your own hours as your own
Mm-hmm.
boss, that doesn't mean you should be all willy-nilly with your
Exactly.
hours. Like one day you work from these hours to this, and then the next day it changes entirely. Like we are creatures of habits. Human beings are creatures of habit, and we need systems and we need routines in order to stay healthy. And so, yeah, and that's another thing that studios are really helpful at doing, is that they do create a 9 to 5 kind of job where
Mm-hmm.
you get to work on this at this time, you only work this long, and then you go home, and every now and then they'll have crunch time and you get paid overtime and all that kind of stuff. But normally it is a very normal job setup. And with freelance and with, being a channel runner on YouTube, you have to really nail that down for yourself and stick to it and have self-discipline to do that, because very often you
Yeah.
can get stuck in the workaholic mode of, but I could work until 11 p.m. and I
Mm-hmm.
can get so much more done.
Self-discipline is something that I still am like working on. Like
Oh, me too.
I
Totally.
I reward myself. I don't discipline myself. I need to stop like rewarding myself at the end of the day. If I like, play a game at the end of the day or something, I need to just, be more disciplined. And yeah, that's all I have to add.
Well, and you're completely right about
Yeah.
taking care of yourself when it comes to burnout, because that's something that I have figured out as well. Um, Whenever, I've had small bouts of burnout a lot, and for a long time I didn't really know what the problem was. I would just okay, maybe I just need to take a day and sleep or something like that. But it was the fact that I had become an eat, sleep, work machine, and I had built an environment around me that enabled me to just zero in on work and care about nothing else. Like my family would have to force me out of my office and force me to go to movies with them and spend time with them, because I would say ever since I graduated from school, I haven't had a personal life. And that's a long time of not having
Mm-hmm.
friends to go out with. And I mean, that's not to say that I don't have friends, but I don't have I don't see people regularly. I don't, have dates out with, friends and family. And
That
that's so
is
important.
that's one thing too about being your own boss, is you're constantly busy,
Yeah.
you know.
And that is very hard, because like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it's all on your shoulders. You don't have a huge studio system where all these different responsibilities are delegated out to a lot of different people. It all really falls on your shoulders, and it can be hard to kind of have that work life balance when you are the boss. And I think if you can just create a system where you treat it like a 9 to 5 job, and you do make time to go out and be a human and be with friends and be with family, then that is going to be the healthiest thing for you. And it's so hard to get caught up in the work thing, because YouTube is constantly wanting more from you. It is a system that rewards longer
Mm-hmm.
videos posted more often, and your audience gets impatient as well, because they're always going to be constantly asking, when's the next video. I will put out a video and within an hour someone is going to ask me, so when's the next video? I'm like, dude, do you not have an idea of how long these videos take yet?
Yeah.
But it's just, it's easy to get caught in that trap, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I think you really have to like watch yourself on that, no matter what kind of freelance job you do, whether it's
Yeah.
on YouTube or whether it's like normal freelance.
Mm-hmm. I once animated an entire music video in 43 hours, like straight. I'm never doing that again in my life. Never.
Yeah, I should
Yeah.
say not.
That's how bad I was.
Oh,
Like, for real, take care of yourself, please.
please, 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 please. Yeah.
And don't feel guilty about it. That's one thing too.
That is,
If
yeah,
you
that
if you
is
feel guilty about going out and having fun, well, clearly not right now because
right.
COVID, but just enjoying life. If you feel guilty about playing a game instead of working, like that's a real bad habit. Like, clearly don't work or don't play when you should be working. But like at the end of the day, when you're like doing something and you think to yourself, I should be drawing or I should be working on this, just that's a bad thing to put in your mind.
Well, and again, I think
You
that
know.
is also alleviated if you do get
Mm-hmm.
into a steady system of, okay,
Yeah.
I worked from 8 a.m. to this hour, and so I can feel good about the quality of work that I put in. And that's another thing. When you
Mm-hmm.
take care of yourself, the quality of your work goes up.
Oh yeah.
Things come easier to you. You have better motivation, you have better focus. So you end up getting better work, really you do, when you take
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself. So I mean, yeah, ultimately, if you can really just get that system down, that's what's going to help you the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know
Yeah.
a lot of us are going, like, we're towards the end of the semester, and all of us are just crawling our
Oh
way
yeah.
through there trying to
Oh
find
yeah.
motivation, but that's really nice to hear.
Well, and trust me, as someone who came from a school that if you weren't putting in 10 hours a day in the computer labs, you were like kind of publicly shamed within your class. Like that's something you can maintain for like your run of school, but don't let that be the expectation when you leave school. Like, school is a different monster entirely than the workforce out there. If you are absolutely bogged down with work in your school life, it gets better. Trust me. Like, please understand, it will get better out there when you get a
Mm-hmm.
job and you actually like get into a normal life swing of things kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So don't expect to work as hard as you do in school out there in the real world.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, on to the next question. So after being a part of the YouTube community, what opportunities have come as a result of it?
um One thing that has come up for me is that I get invited to a lot of conventions to meet people, to talk to people, to be on panels. I once did a convention where I was part of the YouTuber concert where we all sang songs. Because in case anybody doesn't know, I also sing as well. So it's just being on a platform and being out there in the public eye, you know, a lot of opportunities come your way.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be with like brand deals, that can be with conventions, collaborations with other YouTubers is a lot of fun. I've got to do a lot of collaborations with people, big and small. And it's really nice because it broadens your horizon, it teaches you new things. It gives you chances to do things that you don't usually get to do on your channel. Like I have my channel doesn't really work well with my singing. Like a lot of my fans like it when I sing, but not the majority of them. So I get to sing on other people's channels and kind of do like, big over the top show tunes like Wicked and all that kind of stuff on other people's channels. And all I have to do is say, oh, by the way, I did that. So, but it's my favorite thing about the opportunities that we get is I do like the conventions, and I really hope that maybe next year we'll get to go back to them. And what I also love about conventions is that it feels like a family reunion for a lot of us because
Oh yeah.
in this job you can work from any state you want and you can be anywhere you want. And like some people live in Australia, some people are over in England, and when you get major conventions like a VidCon over in Anaheim, very close to you guys, it's really nice because we all get to be in a room together and we get to exchange phone numbers and say, hey, I really love your stuff, let's collaborate. So that's probably my favorite opportunity that comes up, is just getting to do these big events and just be on stage in front of a lot of people and get to gush about, you know, the environment and the community on YouTube, and especially about animation.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jordan?
So yeah, I've had plenty of opportunities being around on the internet for over a decade. I've you know, been around the bush on YouTube a few times. But really, just finding other content creators and just networking really is what brings in opportunity. When someone hears your name or sees your work, they might like that and want to come, you know, come and try to ask you for a job or ask to collaborate with you, or just, you know, try to be your friend. And really that's been my entire life for 12 years. I started out as a tiny 12-year-old on YouTube, commenting on everyone I looked up to, just commenting on every single video, and eventually just posting videos. And I'm very lucky where I am today. I was friends with Jaiden before she hired me. I mean, she asked me over Snapchat if I could work for her. Of course I said yes. Here we are. I've been working with her for 3 years. But really, before that, you really just have to network. You have to know people. I don't know if any of you know the website Albino Black Sheep. That was like early 2000s, like early YouTube. Just a lot of different animators. It was just a website for animators, similar to Newgrounds, just not as big. And I really wanted to be a part of that. And I would email them constantly. I would email them my work. And they finally got back to emailing me being like, well, we'll put one of your cartoons on the channel. And this was in like 2010. And I, like, little 14-year-old me, was freaking out. And from then, they actually were my first ever commission. I think I was 15 or 16 at the time, like just old enough to get a PayPal. And I did a 3.5-minute music video for $400. Don't do that. But I was just a kid, and really going from there, just having the experiences from there on out, networking people from Albino Black Sheep, moving from there to Newgrounds, meeting people on Newgrounds, going to conventions like you said, Rebecca. Newgrounds used to do this annual meetup in their office in Philadelphia. My girlfriend and I would go every year. We went 3 years in a row. They've stopped doing it, clearly, but from stuff like just really just networking, meeting people, exchanging numbers, like you said, Rebecca, really just knowing people, that's where these opportunities come from. And like, I've gotten to work with everyone from Game Grumps all the way to someone with 20 subscribers who was just asking for, you know, a little intro. You know, it really depends on who you know, who you network with, you know.
Yeah. I have more thoughts on networking, but for one of our questions that I see on our list. So I'm gonna hold my thought on that. So yeah. But
You can move
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I'm done now.
I think I'm done too as well.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of that list of questions, one of them is, and you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but the distinction between a larger studio and working for a smaller group or smaller production.
There's a saying that I've heard my mother say, and my mother is like big CEO, you know, of like a big umbrella company, and she says the larger the ship, the harder it is to turn. So the bigger, the bigger the studio, the bigger the team, the bigger the setup, the harder it is to have your voice heard, and the harder it is to make changes in your own team, in your own setup. You know, while if you're working with like a YouTuber who, you know, like in Jaiden's situation, she has like 12 people that, you know, she works with in all, then it's really easy for one of them to say, hey, what if we do this, you know, or hey, what if we like change this about, you know, our organization system. And it's so much easier to have your ideas heard and for you to actually make changes in the process that are more meaningful when you have a smaller group. When you have a studio, it's if, like, for one time I was talking to a friend of mine who's a recruiter at a major studio, and she was talking about how this studio was having problems with inclusion, with keeping the workforce diverse and hiring POCs and LGBTQ, just to kind of keep everything inclusive. And it's harder to make those changes in the higher ups with a major studio like that, and I think that can be very frustrating for a lot of people. And what's nice about working with the small group is they can say, hey, why don't we like tell this kind of story about this kind of person? Why don't we tell a bisexual story? And I happen to be bisexual, so I can fact check and make sure that we're telling it right. I'm not saying that I'm actually bisexual, by the way. I'm just giving an example. But but just kind of like, I think that's what's really nice about the small group, is that you do get to make more of a difference, and you can have your ideas heard a lot sooner, and you can actually make those changes relatively easily. But at the same time, with smaller like YouTube channels, you don't get to make giant series. You don't get to make the Owl House or Gravity Falls or Steven Universe. You don't have the budget, you don't have the labor, you don't have any of that. You don't have the network to actually distribute it or anything like that. So if you are okay with doing things kind of on the smaller level, then it's great. But if you want to make like big epic productions with like 24 episodes a season, then you got to go with the studio, because that's where all the power is. Jordan, you want to add anything?
So I don't have any studio work under my belt, but my roommate works at Nickelodeon, and I can tell, like, it's a completely different situation there than it is to like working what I do with Jaiden. With Jaiden's team, it's so small. It's very like it feels more like a family than just a team of people who make a YouTube video. We all like message each other one-on-one outside of work. We all know each other. Like, some of us have known each other for years. And we all are we're very friendly. And Jaiden is very laid back. Jaiden's very cool and very flexible. But I really don't have any studio experience.
Well, I mean,
It's,
neither
it's
do I. It's
yeah.
absolutely just like having our own connections within
Mm-hmm.
studios, and just hearing what they have to deal with and how their setup works, and
Yeah.
the problems, but also the benefits of being in that kind of system. Um, but I mean, it really all comes down to what you really like, what kind of project you actually want to be a part of, and if you're willing to deal with the ups and downs of either system. Because I mean, when I first started going into animation in the very very beginning, I had like grandiose ideas of having my own TV show on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or Disney or something like that. And if that's what you want to do, great, but you're going to have to get used to the studio setup. You're going to have to get used to the politics of studio. And if you are okay with doing more one-off content, smaller projects with smaller teams, and you are able to understand the ebb and flow of YouTube and the humor of YouTube, and you can create all that, then you can jump to YouTube and see how that works. But yeah, it just really all depends on what you are comfortable
Yeah.
doing. And a lot of people, their priority is to work on high profile projects. I mean, if you really want to be a Disney artist, then no shame in that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Hell, that's great.
Yeah.
Those people make like things that are going to last for centuries.
Mm-hmm. Like, even though I have no studio experience, I still would like to have studio experience. I've been doing freelance for so long now. I'm in like a really comfortable position. I'm fine. I don't need, a studio job, but like, I would like to. I still want to work at, one of my favorite studios. I still want to work on a show. I want to animate for Netflix. I want to be a storyboard artist at Cartoon Network. I still want to do these things. And yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, and I think, being in a studio also forces you to really play at your top
Yeah.
game at all times, and you learn a lot from the people you work with, and they're
Mhm.
all amazing talent in and of themselves. And that's not to say that you can't get that in a small team, but
Yeah.
like there's a certain level of quality that they expect in studios all the time. So you just have to be on your A game at all times. While with a YouTube video, it's okay. It's a little okay if that hand isn't drawn correctly or if the head's too big for this shot.
Yeah.
No one's going to notice. But in studios, they are very, very picky about all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So everything is done very much by the book in studios, just to make sure that everything is organized and everybody is on the same page, because so much of one story and one character is spread amongst many people.
Yeah.
So, but that really helps you to get better as an artist. And it's a
Mhm.
very good system to learn anyway and get used to, because it is very structured. It is very organized. And it really helps you to work with a team and boosts your team skills, you know, working with other people, which are all good things. Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Animation is the most collaborative art form on the face of the planet. So that's another thing, that if you really love animation, you got to get used to working with a team.
Oh yeah.
So I think we covered like a lot of the other differences earlier in the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Definitely, thank you. And
Mhm.
then heading on to our last question, if any students they want to be able to create their own channel or work for, maybe another channel or smaller productions, what are some advice and suggestions that you have for that?
So if you are setting out to have your own channel and essentially do what I do for a living, or what Jaiden does, where she is, you know, the channel runner for her own channel and the head of the team, I would say do not go into YouTube with that in mind.
Mhm.
Do not go into YouTube wanting desperately to succeed and to play at the same level that Jaiden plays at, or that I play at, because you will be disappointed.
Oh yeah.
You'll be disappointed every single time you upload a video and it gets like less than 1,000 views, even though you put your heart, soul, time, blood, sweat, tears into it. That's just going to happen. Like, always go into YouTube just doing it as a hobby and not expecting it to be big and to
Mhm.
blow up. Never actually go into YouTube expecting it to be the job. Like,
Yeah.
you should always start off YouTube as the hobby, as the passion project that you spend your extra time in your day on. And if that begins to pick up traction, then great, keep going, keep feeding that. And then as soon as you start to lose money from not doing your channel, then that's the time you can switch over. Like, once you start making more money, if you put more thought and time into your YouTube channel than your job, then
Mhm.
that's the time to switch over. So, but I have to be realistic here. And that is to say that everybody in the world right now wants to be a YouTuber. It's like everybody in the world wants to be a rock star. That was what I was when I was growing up. Everybody wanted to be a pop star. And now it's the most sought after job, especially amongst young people. And so you have to deal with that competition. You have to deal with the fact that thousands of hours of content are uploaded every
Mhm.
minute to
Yeah.
YouTube. So that's what you have to deal with. That's what you have to reckon with. And you have to learn a set of new rules that YouTube plays by. You have to understand the algorithm. You have to understand thumbnails. You have to understand like keywords that you're supposed to put in your description, like what you can and can't put in your video now. That's very important, because they continue to change that on us all the time. At first it was like, okay, so you can't swear, you can't talk about like disasters or anything like that, like so much things that were too mature that you were not allowed to say or not allowed to talk about or not allowed to do. And then all of a sudden they switch it up and say, but you also can't make things just for kids. Like, so it's this
Yeah.
constant like you're having your finger on the pulse of it at all times and just constantly being aware of how YouTube is changing. And that is a lot of energy doing that. And if you are willing to put up with that, then yes, you can make it on YouTube. And I would say your best chance of making it on YouTube is be a fan of YouTube. Like, have people that you follow, have people that you really, really enjoy, and learn from them. Learn what is the best way to do a call for action at the end of a video. What's the best way to do a thumbnail? Like, just kind of understand the humor, the timing, the pacing of YouTube, and genuinely love it. Because if you don't love it, it's it's not it's not the greatest environment to be in all the time. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to have drama, you're going to have people who do stupid things, you're going to have creators that give you all a bad name, and you got to kind of put up with that. And you got to say, that's not me. I'm different, you know. But you just have to understand the environment that you're trying to make a living in. So
Yeah.
I would say definitely educate yourself on YouTube, educate yourself, like find creators that you love, and most importantly, I would say, is get your foot in the door with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, put out really great work. Like, have a channel with stuff to see, stuff to look at. Put out really good work, and then try to get your foot in the door with somebody else, someone who is established. That's what I did in the very, very beginning. Like, the first person I got my foot in the door with was the annoying orange guy. And then it was Tomska, and it was Jaiden at one point too. So, like, just do your best, network, put your best foot forward on your
Mm-hmm.
channel, be funny, be original, have like come up with a new system, a new way of entertaining, and people will look at your stuff, and the creators that you're trying to get in with are going to look at your stuff and say, hey, I love what you do. Like, you're really cool. You want to do something with me, So I would say do that.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, again, you pretty much like took the words out of my mouth. You know more about this than I do. Clearly, my channel isn't big. I haven't even hit 100K. I've had it for nearly 12 years. Um, that doesn't upset me, really. Like you said, I shouldn't I didn't go in with expecting to be big like you or like Jaiden, and I'm still like not expecting that. Like, YouTube to me is just a place for me to like post what I make. I I'm not looking at it as a job. I wasn't when I was a kid, but it's completely different behind the scenes than it is when you're just watching YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
If you like you said, Rebecca, if you know about YouTube as like a content creator, it's just a completely different website than if you don't make content at all.
Yeah. It is a different
Mm-hmm.
monster entirely.
Yes, there's so much you got to keep up with.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know half of the stuff, like the whole, you got to keep up with analytics. Like the last quarter of the year you get a higher CPM rate, so
Yeah.
you should push for content then. Like, that's things you need to know. But
Mhm.
like Rebecca said, don't go into it like right at the beginning as if it was a job. Like, make it a side thing. If it becomes big, make it your main thing. I hit my microphone again. Hey. Hello.
And another thing I would add to it is, you have so many people who are desperate to get the views, get the clicks, to make YouTube their job, that they will just try things and see what sticks. Like, they'll just throw
Yeah.
things at a wall and see what sticks. And very often it'll eventually land on something, but it's something that they're not passionate about.
Oh yeah.
Like, I've seen a couple people who, thought animation was going to be the thing that stuck, and eventually it was, but they weren't passionate about it. And animation is an art form that if you don't love it, you're not going to put up with it.
Yeah.
Like, who actually wants to like sit here and hand draw like 24 frames for 1 second of animation?
Exactly.
Like, you gotta be like crazy in love with this art to do it. And luckily, you and I are, I would say, right, Jordan?
Yeah, literally, that was the first thing I ever wanted to be, was an artist, an animator. I wanted a cartoon on TV growing up, my entire life. I didn't want to be a policeman or an astronaut or the president. I wanted to be a freaking guy who makes cartoons for TV. And ever since I figured that out, I've just always been in love with the art form. Like, any form of animation, if you look at any form of animation and you don't appreciate it, are you truly an animator? Like, come on.
I think that would just come naturally, right?
Yeah, like
if you
anytime,
actually, yeah.
like I watch a lot of like a lot of people like hate on 3D animation, CG animation. That stuff blows me away. Like, holy crap, CG when it like happened, like when CG first became a thing, like animated movies like Toy Story, the second like CG happened, 2D was like kind of done in the film industry. And
Well,
like
it took it a couple of years from what
it
I
took a
remember.
while, but
Yeah.
like CG just blew up, and
Yeah.
like people don't like CG because of that. But like I really appreciate any form of animation. Like if I look at something and I'm like, that's beautiful, then you did a good job, you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I always tell people about, whenever you are telling a story or anytime you're just trying to entertain, the two questions you should always be asking yourself is your audience bored and are they confused?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you do stop motion to answer those questions or traditional hand drawn or 3D or any variation of the
Mm-hmm.
art form. Like if you are entertaining them and you are getting your point across and you are telling a good story, then it doesn't matter like if you use a pencil or a paintbrush.
Mm-hmm.
And I am confused a lot by people who hate on 3D, and maybe it does go back to the fact that people see 3D as the death of traditional
Yeah.
animation in feature animation. Really what that was we had a dry spell of goods, like we had no good stories
Really.
coming out in the traditional animation department at Disney, and Pixar was making all the money, and Michael Eisner was like, oh, that must mean that everybody only wants to watch 3D now.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand, oh, maybe it was because there weren't a lot of good stories coming out in the 2D department. It had nothing to do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's unfortunate when the
Yeah, it
money
really
people
is.
don't understand that. But ultimately, what was my original point? I think no, I just think it is strange to me that people hate on 3D animation, and I understand, having like learned the process, how elaborate and involved and how like specified a lot of the steps in the process are, and how you can be a 3D generalist where you know the whole process and do a decent job across the board, but there are masters of the different steps in the pipeline, like lighting and compositing and animation and all
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's actually a fun way to figure out, like if you do want to do 3D animation, like to specify like what step you want to do, that can really like open a lot of doors for you. And that has created more jobs really in the animation process, is that
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer storyboard, background artist, animators, ink and paint. Now it's previs dev and storyboarding, and then building the models and the rigging and the
Mm-hmm.
texture artist and the light. So there's just so many different like opportunities for finding your niche in 3D, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what's really nice about it. And there's definitely like, I love the scope of the types of movies that you can make in 3D, just these
Yeah.
photorealistic things like the backgrounds in The Good Dinosaur, for goodness sake. Like, oh my
Oh
gosh.
my God, yeah, for real.
Huh.
The freaking opening scene of Toy Story 4 was like so uncanny. Like I don't know if you've seen it, but it's just like outside and it's raining and it just looks like they filmed it. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah. And now, do I believe that we need CG talking lions basically recreating the entirety of The Lion King? I think there's some balance that needs to be had. I think
Yeah.
we're getting into an entirely different topic here.
I agree.
but
Like you said, Rebecca, you and I could just ramble about anything.
we really could. Like, you just set us off on like anything that you can have an opinion on in
Yeah.
animation, and we'll just go at it. So
That's all right. We enjoy you guys' conversation. I mean, we're learning along the way. We're having a discussion.
That's good. They like want something, like they wanted me to go to college, but when I told them I was doing YouTube, they were like, shouldn't you go to college? They're very like stubborn about certain things. And I launched a Patreon once. This is not YouTube, but I launched a Patreon and told my dad, and he said, why don't you get a real job? And that really upset me. And then I moved out. Uh, now look at me.
Yeah.
My dad and I are fine. That was
Yeah.
8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Other than that, my family's been extremely supportive. When I want to do something, I tell them. Like when I dropped out of college, I called my mom. I'm like, listen, I can't do this. This is so dumb. I already know all this, Mom. I don't need to be here. And she's like, okay, that's fine. And then even though I was doing freelance, I worked at a movie theater, and I wanted to do freelance full time because I was making more money doing freelance than working at a movie theater that was eating up all my time. So I called and told my mom, and my mom was very, very supportive of that decision. She was very worried, you know, uh, being an online, getting money online doesn't sound like, uh, like it's not really, how do I explain this? It doesn't get through them as they're boomers. They're boomers. That's it. They don't understand. They just don't understand.
Yeah.
But really explaining to them, they became very supportive. And like nowadays, like YouTube is bigger than what it was 5 years ago. It's bigger than what it was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago when I started, like that's laughable. I want to be an animator on YouTube and make millions of dollars. No, not 10 years ago. But nowadays, if you want to do that, I feel like families would be more supportive because YouTube is so big now. It's almost like its own like TV channel at this point.
Mm-hmm. So I have a similar kind of a vibe coming from my family, because my family, before I even decided I wanted to go into school for animation, I went in for theater. And for a lot of parents and boomer parents out there, that would be even less reasonable to do than animation. But my family has always supported me in whatever I wanted to do. And I've been very fortunate in that, because very often artists have a very similar story of the parents telling them, you need to get a real job. You need to don't study art. Art is a hobby. You need to, become a banker, become a doctor, do something like realistic that's going to actually like put, food on the table. And so a lot of artists have to like fight against that in order to like become a professional artist. And I was very fortunate to not have that. Like to not have to fight my parents for it. I think they were definitely happy when I decided that I wanted to go into animation over theater, because that did, like I said, that seems more reasonable, funny enough. But they were the ones that were like, okay, let's put her in the best school that we can find, and let's, do what we can to make it happen. And especially my mom, when I graduated and YouTube was becoming a thing, I was getting my foot in the door with a lot of YouTubers, and my mom was really on board. She was really interested in it. And so she was the one that was constantly telling me, Becca, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. Like, you are so talented, and you've got, a lot of connections within this YouTube community thing, and you genuinely like YouTube, and you're already good at it. So I really just think it's a case of your audience just hasn't found you yet, but they will eventually. And to have that kind of support, oh my gosh, like I don't think I have ever come across a YouTuber who says that their parents were that supportive of their YouTube career. My dad had a little trouble understanding it because, like you said, boomer, but he was also a businessman. And for the life of me, I explained it to him so many times how AdSense works, and he still didn't get it. And what made him nervous was that with AdSense and with YouTube paying you, there's not a lot of logic that you can put behind it. Sometimes you have a good quarter, sometimes you have a bad quarter. And he was always like, okay, cost of material is this, overhead is this. He has charts to make sure that every single cent is accounted for. And with YouTube, sometimes your video just isn't good. Sometimes advertisers aren't paying as much for the CPMs. Like sometimes CPMs in a certain country are bad, and you're getting more views in that country than America. There's a lot of different factors going on in the YouTube sphere, and that's what made him nervous, is that I couldn't give him a play-by-play of where all this money was coming from and why it was different from month to month. And so while he was supportive of it, it was really hard for him to understand, even as brilliant of a businessman as he was. So I think it's just, for a lot of people, it's just so new. And the concept of like, not even making cartoons, but like flipping on a camera in your bedroom and just talking to it, like that's a strange concept that you can make money doing that for a lot of people, you know? And I can't tell you how many times I've had to answer the question, so how do you make money doing that? Like a lot of YouTubers complain about the first question people immediately ask is how much money you make. I never get asked that question. I get asked, how do you make money? How does all of that work? So I have explained AdSense to people like more times than I can count.
I explained AdSense to my grandma, just not last Christmas, but the Christmas before. And she still didn't get it. And then we saw Wreck-It Ralph 2, and then she got it. So, I mean, that's not a very accurate portrayal, but
No.
I think she kind of understands in some sort of sense.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard for a lot of the older generation to wrap their heads around, but
it really is.
But I've been very, very fortunate that, especially my mom, because, you know, unfortunately my dad passed away, but my mom was always the one who really understood it better than the two of, like, better in that relationship. She understood it. And so she's just been with me the entire ride. You know, she's been with me to a lot of conventions. She really like helped with the like setting up the money, and she still helps me a lot with the business side of things. So yeah, mom's been around for the whole ride. She saw it all happen right before her own eyes, you know?
Cool, thank you. Our next question comes from Alyssa. Alyssa says, hello, Rebecca. I was wondering if you had help animating videos on YouTube for the first time, or did you work on animating by yourself?
For a long time, I did everything myself. And I think that's pretty much like 99.9% of everybody who starts off on YouTube does it all themselves, unless you are going into it, starting it as like a buddy thing or a family thing where, you know, you have someone already at the beginning that you want to do these things with. And kudos to you if you can actually make that work for the entire run, because that doesn't always happen. Sometimes a lot of the times people just go their separate ways, or it just kind of falls off because someone isn't putting as much effort or energy into it as the other. But usually a lot of people will just start a channel on their own. So for a long time, I was doing every single thing myself. And I want to say it was over a year ago, I finally brought on someone, and it was mostly a case of I wanted to get into a financially responsible situation that I could afford that person and actually pay them what they're worth. Because being an ex-freelancer, I have been met with, oh, we don't have the budget to actually pay you, but it's great exposure. Or the classic one of, oh, we were going to give you money when the project started making money. And that's so frustrating to a freelance artist, because you get so much of that. I once had a family friend who was going to pitch a children's book series to me, like come to my office and to my face tell me, oh, well, we weren't actually going to pay you for this. And it's like, so knowing what it is like to be freelancing for a living, knowing what it is like to have to deal with those types of people, and people who not only don't want to pay you, but when they do pay you, they always want to shortcut you. They always want to like pay you far less than you are worth, you know? And I know what this work is worth. I know the talent of these people. I know how much time and energy and thought goes into all of it. So I will pay people what they are worth. And so, you know, there's the advantage of like being a freelancer myself. I know what is the right, you know, rate to pay people, and, you know, the right working environment you want to create, and the right back and forth with them, and being, communicating with that person well. And that's, you know, that's just the experience of having to do it myself and knowing what it's like in their shoes. So I finally brought on someone when I was able to pay them what they are worth. So, and I brought on someone really good. You know, she's the daughter of like a Disney merchandise design legend. Like he's a pin designing legend. He worked under the guy who created the classic Mickey Mouse watch. Like she's Disney legacy. And she was the first person I ever brought on. She's also a girl I went to school with at Ringling. And I tell this story in one of my videos where the first day of class, I sat next to her and she started doodling Disney quality drawings in her sketchbook. And I was like, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I can't compete with these kids. They're so much better than me. And now she works for me. So, yeah. But I know what she is worth. I know what all of my artists are worth and what is fair to pay them.
Mhm.
So when you do finally get into that position where you can bring on people, please pay them what they're worth.
Mhm.
Understand that they are human beings with bills to pay, and they need to set aside money for rainy days and also future plans and maybe vacations for themselves, you know? So pay them right. Pay them a living wage. So yeah, that's basically, I think that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And anonymous attendee asks, what advice do you guys have for networking? And how was your experience in making connections? I imagine it's important in a community as small as YouTube animation. Big fans of you both.
Go
You
ahead.
want me
and
to
take
go
this one.
first?
Yeah,
I'll go
for it.
first. Yeah. So advices for networking, really, just getting out there and being like friendly, going to conventions, meeting fellow artists who are like around your size. Like, don't try to reach for the top straight away. Don't try to go running for the big guy. You know, look for people who are like you. Look for people who are like draw the same things as you. Look for people who create the same content as you. Collaborate with them. Like, don't try to collaborate with the big person. You know, if you start collaborating with other channels, then that will help their channel, and then you both will just grow from there. And then when you grow, you have more opportunities to network. So really, just be friendly. You know, get out there, have fun. You know, be social.
I would say take advantage of social media.
Mm-hmm.
Have an account on Instagram, Twitter, of course, have your YouTube channel, Snapchat, like anything, like the amount that you are comfortable taking on. But the more your name is out there, the more your art is out there, the more your animation is out there, and it's getting passed around. Oh, here's a funny clip from this video that I just
Mm-hmm.
did, and so it hits the funny bone of someone, and it gets passed around, and it reaches the eyes of someone, bigger, and they may say, oh, who is this? Oh yeah, I remember that person. They did that. Like anything that you can do to just get more eyes on your work, which, means like upload, make a lot of art and put it on your Twitter, on your Tumblr, and on your Instagram. Like take advantage of that and just put a lot of your, a lot of really good work out there and make it easy for people to see. Like that was one
Mm-hmm.
thing that they taught us in portfolio class was put as few clicks between the recruiter and your portfolio as possible. Make your portfolio webpage incredibly searchable. Always put the link to your portfolio page in the email. Like make it easy for the recruiter to find you. Don't like bury the link to your portfolio in this one post on this one blog site you have, So I would say, just make yourself very, very visible online. And Jordan hit it right on the spot. Like, don't always just reach for the big dogs. Not to say that you can't like try, but definitely network with people that are your size. People, you have some interest in,
Mm-hmm.
some people that you respect their talent, you think they're funny, like they genuinely entertain you, or they're just a good person. Like I would say definitely try to find good people
For real.
because the internet brings all different types of people together into the same community, and they're from all different walks of life, and they're from all different parts of the world, and it's no guarantee that everybody in the animation community or the beauty community or this community or that, there's no guarantee that they're all going to get along, because
Mm-hmm.
we're all different people. So if you can just get your foot in the door with really good people who, you know, are not jerks, I would
Yeah.
say, and take the responsibility of being an artist and having a platform. You know, they understand that responsibility and they respect that. Those are the types of people you want to be around.
Mm-hmm.
So, but ultimately, it just I mean, I got my networking in with fan art at one point. Like I mean, and there's no shame in that. And just don't be annoying, I guess. Like
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I could say. Just every now and then just throw out, a fun little fan art of your favorite YouTuber, and they'll most likely see it, especially
Mm-hmm.
if it's really good, then they'll be super impressed.
Oh yeah.
Trust me. Yeah. Um, but ultimately it just yeah, I think that kind of covers it for YouTube networking.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Sabby asks, from the inception of the idea to the posting of the video, how long does it usually take to get your respective videos out?
So I think Jaiden has a much more solid upload schedule, wouldn't you say, Jordan?
Yeah, we have a pretty set schedule. We have we have to get a certain amount of scenes done in a week, and that really helps with maintaining a good upload schedule. We typically from start to finish have a video done within a month and a week, month and 2 weeks. But we have so many videos that we work on at once that we can upload once a month, you know. Some videos take longer, like the one we're currently working on. This one is, I think, nearly 30 minutes. It's very big. We're trying to get it out before the end of the year. It's very tough, but yeah, usually just like month and a half for Jaiden. But for me personally, for my own videos, it really depends on what kind of video I want. I have a series that I make that I put like my entire, like my heart into, all my money. I drop all my, like everything into the series. And on the other hand, I also make just one-off fun videos that I can make in 1 week. But like, I can either, just have a funny, silly 1 minute video that I can animate in 1 week, or have this really nice, clean, polished thing completely by myself. Would probably take me 2 months if I like had nothing else going, if I had no job and like I was able to make money off of it, probably 2 months for a full 7-minute episode of a thing.
I think that's very fair. I think
Yeah.
because you are just you, and I mean, that's about the time it takes me. Like it really depends on, because I do have a smaller team and my system is a little more lax. It's a little more dependent upon like if I'm super busy with something else in my life, or it's a new type of project with like new things that I'm trying, then that's going to take a little more time to get it right. That does take me a little bit longer, but I am happy at the end of the day with the product that is being put out there. And I would love to eventually get it down to a system where that Jaiden has, but that does require a lot more help, a lot more, a lot more workers, and I think that just kind of comes with the growth, is that as soon as you start bringing on more people, the necessity of needing to do that lovely spreadsheet that she had for you, like,
Oh,
I don't
it's
like,
such a beautiful thing, that spreadsheet.
yeah. And you see, I'm not working at a level yet where I even require that. Like a lot of that is just kept within the Premiere program, and I have it kind of like in a Word file just for my own usage, and it can be a little more lax. But as soon as more people come on, then yeah, like spreadsheets are amazing. But ultimately it probably takes me about anywhere from 1 to even 3 months sometimes. And like I said, a lot of that depends on, hey, maybe there's something going on in my life, like someone died,
Yeah.
Just sometimes life hits us. And because this channel is essentially me, like I am the face of my channel, these are my stories, this is my personality being put out there, then it is largely dependent upon how like where I am in my life and how I can actually like how much time I can set aside. Or maybe there's a family emergency, maybe I'm about to move somewhere and that takes a lot of time too, so it really all depends. You do your best on YouTube, you certainly do. And you definitely always work towards having a system like Jaiden's or James's, where it is absolutely like nailed in stone. This is how much time we have, and this is how much, is doled out to each person. And that just kind of comes, like I said, with the growth and with the necessity of it. So, yeah.
Cool, thank you. Carlos asks, if you weren't doing YouTube, what would you be doing?
Ooh.
I would probably be out in a studio somewhere. Like, I'd probably like do freelancing as long as I possibly could, and maybe that would have lasted until now. But I would imagine that I would have either started working for a YouTuber, or I would have gone off to a major studio, probably. Mm-hmm. What about you, Jordan?
I really I was big into making drinks, like mixology.
Oh, neat.
If I don't become an animator, I would love to open a bar. Like that's like one of those retirement dreams, for whenever you're turning 50, 60. But I if YouTube were to completely shut down and the studios were all rejecting me, I would probably just start fresh, start as a bartender and work my way up. Figure something out. I really don't know. I have no idea. But that's probably where I would go.
I think that's nice that you have like a plan B that has nothing to do with the arts. Like,
yeah, like just in case there's something fun I can do.
Yeah.
I was always the bartender at the parties. I always made the coolest drinks. For Halloween, I made a color changing drink that would like misted, and it was cool.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister, she's the bartender in the family, and she actually went to bartending school, and she was valedictorian of her class.
Wow.
Because she actually was like a bartender for like a Mexican restaurant she worked at when she was in college. So, she knows all of that.
This close to just getting a bartending license. I just really wanted one. I was real close.
That's cool. That's one I haven't heard.
Yeah,
you get like people get asked that question a lot in the community, and they always say,
yeah.
"Oh, and James always has his go-to of like, "Oh, I just be a math teacher."
Math teacher, yeah. I have to hear that constantly.
I know.
He still goes on.
He still loves math. He does. But yeah. So that's essentially what we would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Thank you. Anonymous asks, do you have any tips on motivation? I'm currently struggling with the recording of my first video. Every time I listen to the playback, I get demotivated.
Okay, so specifically when it comes to like if you're talking about recording your voice, if you're not used to hearing your voice, then you're not going to be used to like the sound of it, the delivery. You're not going to be comfortable in front of the microphone. Like it takes a lot of experience to be comfortable with the mic. Like even I'm a theater kid, I sing in front of people. I like belt out like big monologues in front of people on stages. And my first time getting in front of the microphone, I was timid and I didn't like the sound of my own voice when I played it back. So I would say that there's always going to be that initial like adjustment period of getting comfortable in front of a microphone, just as if there would be when you get in front of a camera, like always going to be that. And you'll eventually if you just do it long enough, you'll get used to the sound of your voice. You'll get used to your delivery. Your bird is hilarious.
Yeah, she's giving me a bunch of kisses. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to interrupt.
But basically, I would say just practice enough in front of the microphone and work on pushing your own delivery so you sound a little more energetic and how to really hit certain words and kind of have that voiceover sound to you, and just make it a little more interesting with each try, and understand that your first video, it's going to sound really, really, low energy compared to when you hit your like 10th video and you kind of you get into the pace of things. So I would say it's completely normal to like play back your first audio recording and be like, I don't know about this. And I say just push through that, just don't worry about it being perfect. Worry about just finishing it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
not every video is going to be perfect. Don't try to make it perfect, because if you did, you'll never upload it. It'll never be done. So just
Yeah.
be satisfied with it, be happy with it at a certain point, accept that it's not perfect, that it's not as big or grandiose as you want. You know, maybe it's not exactly the thing you had in your head. But if you can just get over that initial hump of just finish the video, then it's going to make the next video that much easier.
Mm-hmm. For me, specifically me, I'm weird. If I lose motivation on a video that I'm working on for my channel, the one thing that keeps me going is like just the thought of uploading it, you know, just having it finished and hearing what people are going to say. Because like you'll typically, like, everyone gets hate comments, but lately, like, everything I've been posting has been nothing but overwhelmingly like beautiful comments. And like just the thought of uploading again is enough to motivate me to make a video. And another thing is like, just like think of the future. That's a good thing. Like look ahead. Like if you're just starting out, you're making your first video, it's not coming out how you wanted it. Don't look at it as like, I'm never going to get better. Look at it as a learning experience. You're doing nothing but growing constantly. Like if you mess something up, that's a learning experience. You'll know, like, from now on, like, first video, it looks like crap. 5 years from now, what are you going to look like? You know, if you keep at it, 5 years from now, you could be one of the best dang, you know, content creators on YouTube. You really don't know. Really just look ahead. That's some of the best motivation I can give.
You just reminded me of a time like when a DreamWorks director called Steve Hickner, he was co-director on Prince of Egypt, but also director of B-Movie. So, but he came to Ringling and helped us with our senior thesis, and he did a lot of presentations. And he said something about staying motivated that was really, really inspiring. And that is, you got to get excited about the things you're going to learn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he once said, like, he walked into the director of like Oliver and Company, the you know, the Disney movie about the cat named Oliver.
Yeah.
It's basically Oliver Twist. He was working with someone who was on that movie, and that person was like, man, I'm so excited because I'm going to be so good at quadrupeds by the end of this movie. Like, I'm going to be really, really good at animals, you know? And just finding that thing that you're going to get like better at by the end of this
Exactly.
project. Like if you can learn to get excited about that, yeah, that's going to be a really strong motivator,
Mm-hmm.
and a thing that keeps you going even when you feel like you've got no energy on the project.
Yeah, really, just like the idea of a finished product is enough to keep me going, you know?
Yeah. Well, and we are storytellers. And what's the point of telling a story and making these videos when you don't have an audience to show them to? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we like to see audience reaction. That's why we tell
Yeah.
stories, is we want to touch people with these stories. We want to, give people a laugh or improve their day or teach them something, you know? So yeah, we absolutely love to share these videos. We love the audience. So
Really.
they love to see their reaction. So that, yeah,
Mhm.
that's great motivation. Absolutely.
And that's one thing too, is when you work for a studio, it's different than YouTube, whereas like YouTube has a comment section. You are like getting direct feedback immediately, whereas you finish an episode on a TV show and then a year later it finally airs, you know.
Yeah.
So that's also another thing. Just if you have like a good community, a good audience, like just hearing what they have to say is also great motivation.
Oh yeah. And what's really nice about having an audience like that is subscribed to you, that they're the first people on your video, I would say, like, if you're going to read comments, read the first comments, because
Yes.
those are your subscribers. Those are the people who have notifications turned on, and they're going to be the ones that are excited about the content that's coming
Mm-hmm.
out. So they're usually going to say nice things, supportive things. They're going to be really happy that you uploaded. They're going to be the ones that are going to like quote their favorite jokes in the comments, so you
Exactly.
learn what worked in the video and what didn't. So, and sometimes that surprises you what worked in the video. And so So, but as soon as, like, I would say after the first 24 hours, stop reading comments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, never read, like, months down the line, never read the comments, the new ones coming in, because that's when more people are just stumbling upon your content, and that's when they say mean, nasty things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really nice to have that that instantaneous feedback, you know. And the internet is a different type of monster in the sense of people can say literally whatever they want to with zero ramifications whatsoever. And you have to kind of like, that is an adjustment when you first start off on YouTube, is that you got to get used to the mean comments. You got to get used to people like saying the worst thing in the world to you and not really treating you like a human being. Like, they don't see you as a human being. They see you as like, oh, well, you signed up for this because you're putting yourself out there. So
Yeah.
I'm allowed to say whatever I want to you. And that, like, I have talked to a lot of like studio people, and that is the thing that keeps them from doing online work, is that they don't feel comfortable putting themselves out there and essentially exposing their work and themselves to a very large spectrum of people who can be really, really kind or really, really cruel. So and that's, you know, that's hard for a lot of people, I would say. And that's one of the things, that's one of the drawbacks, I would say, of the instantaneous feedback, is that you get the good and you get the bad. And they also, the YouTube audience also kind of goes for the jugular a little bit more. Like, they zero in on you, the creator, and really, really go for you personally. While if you work on a major studio production, no one is going, oh, that storyboarder who
Yeah.
boarded these scenes, they're awful people because I didn't like this episode of the TV show. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. So there's kind of like this security door between you and the audience, and the bad of the audience when it comes to being in a studio versus being on YouTube. I think we started rambling a little bit, but yeah.
No worries.
A lot of good info. Thank you. So Alyssa asks, if you know programs like Clip Studio or Rough Animator, but the studio uses something like Harmony, is the studio more likely to hire someone who already knows Harmony?
I would say so, but it really depends on the portfolio, because here's the thing. If it's between you and another person and your portfolios are pretty much the same as far as like quality of work goes and variety and understanding, you know, the principles of animation, if it's pretty much equal portfolio, but they can immediately pick up Harmony and you can't, and the studio uses Harmony, then they're going to get that job over you. And Harmony is probably, it is the most commonly used, you know, traditional animation, 2D animation program out there, even more so than Animate. So if you want to have the best shot of getting a job out there in the studio, and not just getting one job, but being able to jump from studio to studio, because that's what you do in the industry, then you gotta know the most commonly used programs out there and pick them up immediately. And that's just gonna be easier for you to jump from studio to studio. And that is incredibly common. People do that all the time. You studio hop all the time. I mean, yeah, there's a handful of people who will stick around at a studio for years and years and years and become a Disney legend or something like that. But majority of the people out there switch studios all the time. So you really got to learn the software that's out there.
Yeah,
I'm here. There we go. Sorry, hold on. I'm here. My bird started to hump my face.
Oh.
So they do that. Yeah, that's a thing. They're just like dogs.
Isn't Baby Jim a girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Baby Jim is a girl. They all do it. They all
do it. So what was the question?
So sorry about that.
I forgot the question.
The different programs used and to get you hired. But I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have studio experience, so I can't really answer that. Yeah.
No, but I would absolutely advise, if you are capable of doing so, learn the studio specific programs. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Carly asks, are there any types of stretches or hand exercises that you'd suggest doing or that you found are the most helpful between animating?
So, of course, just this,
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
then-
say.
and then doing this and stretching it down this way. And constantly like work your fingers out, shake your wrist out, shake your hands out. That's always good. There's one specific to the thumb that I learned just randomly on the internet, and that is you put your thumb into your palm like this. You wrap your fingers around your thumb and you just kind of squeeze, and that stretches your thumb. So that is really good for the thumb. Yeah.
Oh, my thumb popped.
Yeah, there you go. See?
Hey.
Yeah. But just
Yeah.
always kind of like keep things loose. Like I do this like as kind of a, not a nervous habit, but like a thinking habit. And it's actually really been good for me throughout the long run of things. You also have a tendon in your arm that can get like, it's right in here, and it can get kind of bumpy. And that usually means it's very overworked. So anytime you can kind of like massage that out, that's very good for you, because this tendon gets really, really like gritty and you need it to be smooth. So usually like doctors are good about like helping you zero in on those problem areas.
I do pretty much the same thing, and I also have a roller for my back, a foam roller, which is very nice. Do you have one too?
I'm trying to see. Hold on. Maybe I have it in here because I got everything back from LA, and maybe I still have all my stuff in here. Hold on one sec.
Mine's back at home. Hi.
That sounds very helpful. It's easy to neglect the back too.
I have this.
Oh.
I have this. So what this does is that you put it on your wrist like this, and you kind of like pull it taut over that tendon, and you roll it back and forth like this.
Wow.
And it helps to kind of like massage that tendon out, and it's really, really nice. And it's kind of like just a really good hard massage on your forearms. So yeah, my doctor tells me all the time, "Are you using your balls?" So yeah, that's one thing that I do.
I like that thing.
Yeah. What's this thing even called? Myo balls. MYOBALLS. So yeah, they're great. I love them.
Cool, thank you. That's very helpful for artists doing just constant work. So Anonymous is feeling that fear in post-college and is wondering if they should consider going to their Plan B job and just doing animation, whether for studio or portfolio or YouTube, just on the side, and then work on it that way, or if they should still pursue it.
I mean, you got to pay bills. Like ultimately, you have to pay bills. You have to pay off student loans. So I would see it as a temporary thing. Like absolutely get a Plan B job that has nothing to do with animation. Make sure it pays the bills, and do your best in that job, of course. But when you do have free time, I say set aside time in your day to work on your portfolio if you want a studio job, and set aside time to just work on like a passion project you want to upload to YouTube. Like, and what's great about the passion projects is they're all so fun, you know. Working on your portfolio is definitely a means to an end. Like, you are planning to eventually use this portfolio to get a different job entirely. So, and I think, and it can be hard at the end of the day. You're exhausted. You only have so much free time to yourself. But if you can just hold out long enough until you get it, like your portfolio up to snuff, and then get that job, then it was temporary, you know? It was a means to an end. So I would say just do what you can to pay the bills and make sure you're not stressed out about a lack of money, and then use your free time to pursue the animation career.
That's pretty much exactly what I did. Not now. I'm fine now, but before all this, I like I said, I had a movie theater job. I worked at a few pizza places, all while doing freelance and animating for YouTube.
Yeah.
So like you literally said it best. You got to pay bills.
And I think you should always,
biting me.
and always be mindful of that. And especially if you are like post graduation and you are feeling kind of like what I was describing, like the post ringling depression, like try to understand that that's what that is. Like acknowledge that in your brain that you are having a post school depression, and understand it's normal, and this too shall pass, and you will eventually get your feet underneath you and you'll feel a little more comfortable. And try to understand that it doesn't matter what, you know, your fellow alumni think. It doesn't matter what your school thinks. It doesn't matter what your parents think. As long as you are on the road to where you want to go and you are happy, then that's what's important. Because I stressed out so much about what other people thought of me post-graduation, and that's what nearly killed me. So try to do better for yourself there. Did we answer the full question?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks. And Daniel asks, what is a good freelance rate to charge for an animation artist still in school? Do people usually charge by the hour, day, or week?
When I first started doing it, I started charging per minute of animation. Yeah, that's right. I charged very little. I was very underselling myself. I now charge $1,200 per minute, which is roughly like $100 every 10 seconds. Stop it. Wait, not 10 seconds. I'm sorry, 5 seconds. Quit peeping. You know, but for Jaiden, I work with an hourly rate. But really, you figuring out your rate. Oh my God. Know your worth. Know how good you are as an artist. Know what you can do, and at the same time, also like know what you can accomplish in a certain amount of time. There's my friend told me this great thing about having to figure out your rate. It was like the 3 points of freelance. It was like cheap, good quality, and fast, but you can only pick 2. And I picked everything but cheap. I'm good quality and I'm fast. That's what I'm going for. And you know, basing things off of, you know, just a easy little system like that, you can really, you know, figure out a rate for yourself, whether you want an hourly rate or if you want a flat rate, like how I want $1,200 a minute. Whereas some people will ask for like 25 an hour or 30 an hour. It really is like it's really up to you and what you can do for your skills, like what you can accomplish. And at the same time, you also have to
wage.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you also have to think of your bills too.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like coming out of college. Like me, I didn't have to think about that because I started in my parents' house, you know. I was very lucky to, you know, be in that situation. But really just it's about knowing your worth and knowing like you said, livable wages, like what your monthly like bill is for like everything you have to pay for. You know, you have to keep so many things in mind whenever figuring out a rate. I'm going to go ahead and give you the microphone because my bird won't stop.
Well, I mean, you pretty much covered it. I would have to say is you know, it's really up to you what you decide is what you need to make a living. And there also is the whole supply and demand thing. So if you get to a point where you are heavily in demand by a lot of people and your work is high quality, then you are fully allowed to inflate your rate because you are in demand, like basic supply and demand, basic economics right there. But and your rates will change, you know, and
Yeah.
you may even switch systems at some point, like where you decide, you know, I don't think I can charge for like a full project anymore because I'm having trouble keeping the hours consistent. So I need to start doing an hourly rate because you know, sometimes, and different systems work for different people, and it may just take, you know, experience to figure out what is actually right for you. And in a weird way, if you actually have time in school, like if it's not irresponsible for you to be taking on freelance in the middle of school, then great. And school is kind of like a good time to start figuring that out because you know, I would assume like maybe your parents are helping you pay, maybe you have student loans that are helping you pay for things, and it's a little bit of a safety net, you know. It's like, yeah, you have some time to figure out what your hourly rate should be or what your flat rate should be. And how much time you can actually devote to certain types of projects, and just kind of gets your feet wet in the freelance world. So feel free to like ask different things from different clients, ask for different rates, a different way of paying, you know, and just figure out what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, thanks. So also Sarah asks, I've noticed 3D is really only used in studios. Is it still something that you could do on YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say it's harder.
It's definitely harder, but like you don't have to be stuck doing 2D animation.
No.
Really, YouTube, the whole point of YouTube, at least to its core, is YouTube. You do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like what we said earlier, you should be doing it as a hobby, you know, not as, you know, I want to make this into a full-time job.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can make it work, if you can make 3D work for you, if you have, you know, maybe even just a simple setup for your content, like you only need 2 characters and you already have those characters, and you need simple sets that you can build relatively easily or something like that. And it's a pretty easy gimmick with 3D, then yeah, that'll absolutely work. But I will say, like, I know people who their entire thing is 3D work. Like I have a friend named Ami Yamato, and she, you know, she can't put out a lot of videos because her stuff is so involved, because it is very high quality work that she does. She what she basically does is she puts a 3D version of herself into live action footage as if she is a 3D human vlogging and walking around in the real world. And you know, unfortunately, even as amazing as those videos are for her, it does take a lot of time and effort, and I don't think she's actually being able to make YouTube her living yet, even though she's been featured on like Rhett and Link, and a lot of different people have really like taken notice of her, and so she's doing great stuff. But it really comes down to, how can you maintain this as a career with 3D, like. And I think that's a little bit trickier because 3D is a little more involved. It's a lot, and it's a less flexible process, in my opinion, because if your rig is not going to stretch to a Tex Avery style pose that you really, really want to do, it's not going to stretch to that, and you would have to like re-rig the entire rig all over again, which is more time out of your day. And traditional animation is nice because if I want to do a cartoony Tex Avery thing, I just draw it in. I don't have to re-rig an entire character, I just draw it in. So I would say traditional animation works well for YouTube, but it's not impossible to do 3D. Not at all. And if it's what makes you happy, then do it.
Cool, thank you. So Sage asks, I think Rebecca touched on this a bit with the fan art you mentioned, but does fan animation count as getting your foot in the door?
I think so.
Bigger animated projects.
I think so. I mean, heck, Jaiden's story is like her first run on YouTube is based in doing fan animation for someone. I think it was I Has Cupquakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that she started off with, like, and she did like some animation for her. And before Jaiden had ever animated anything, that was the first thing she did, was for I Has Cupquake, and that's how she got her foot in the door. She did something for Dan and Phil too. And so there's a lot of value to be had in doing like fan animation stuff. It's a good way to teach yourself animation and to learn a new program. And what I Has Cupquakes was to Jaiden, Danebo was to me. The Annoying Orange Guy was to me. And eventually, you may even become friends with them. They may even become your colleague at a certain point. So yeah, I would say, as long as it doesn't become your full gimmick, like, don't, like, if you are serious about having your own channel and doing your own thing and having your own brand and your own, like, putting your own personality out there, don't become a fan animation channel. Like
Mm-hmm.
every now and then it's good you can do a fan thing, but like try to put something original out there. Put your own voice out there. Do something unique, you know, like put your own spin on things. And that's going to be the way you have longevity on YouTube, is if you
Mm-hmm.
have your own way of doing things versus just being a fan artist.
Mm-hmm. And even like fan animation, like other types of artwork will work too. Like it doesn't even have to be an animation. Like just fan art could get you like a background job,
Mhm.
you know.
Absolutely.
One VidCon, I think it was 2018, Jaiden received this like really well-made 3D model that someone sculpted of her by hand and painted. And that guy now works with Jaiden's merch company, 3D modeling toys for people. Like PewDiePie released a 100 million subscriber figurine. My girlfriend designed it, and that guy 3D modeled it. So like really, it is a good putting your foot in the door, you know,
I didn't
fan
know that.
stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like he
That's so
just
neat.
gave it to her at VidCon, and Jaiden was like, "Holy crap, look at this!" And now he's working with them.
That's
So
neat.
it's really cool.
So yeah, I would say, like, yeah, in this environment, I would say fan art can absolutely open up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah.
But like I said, just don't let it become the only thing you do. Like prove that you can do other things for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you. So, also, Brian asks, when you're an artist, when you get a budget, then what do you do next to start?
You know, that's really interesting because I struggled like with, well, what do I do now? Like as soon as I had the budget, like sometimes it can be hard to like take that next step into hiring someone. And you can do everything from like ask a friend that you already have like before, like, because that's what I did, is like I just asked a friend, and then I asked her like, so do you have people that you probably could see would do well in this? And she's like, oh yeah, here's this person, this person, this person. And just, you know, if you want, you can put out a call. I know Jaiden has done like, you know, portfolio calls on Twitter before, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, she did open calls. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll get a lot of responses, especially if you have like a big audience like Jaiden does. You will get a lot of responses, but that does mean that you have more choice. Like versus only 2 people applying and they're both mediocre versus 100 people applying and like 10 of them are amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So, so I think it just comes down to finding the right person to kind of make that jump. Like, and I would say if you do have a friend who is talented and can do this, or not so much a friend, but somebody you know, like a colleague of like a fellow alumni from your school or something like that, someone you can kind of trust to bring on, then I would say make the jump with that initial person, and that just kind of breaks the ice. And then it's going to be easier to hire the next person, and then they're going to have connections and you hire the next person. And social media is very valuable. Like sometimes you will say, oh, I like this person's art, follow. And then like a month later, they're like, hey, I'm doing freelance now. Anybody have any work? And you're like, oh, you know, and you just happen to see it. So I just say that's some bits of advice I would have to say. But like, it is a little difficult that once you do have a budget and once you can bring someone on, sometimes it is a little hard to make that first jump because it is your vision and it is your baby. And if you're on YouTube, it is your name being put out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to kind of like hand some of that responsibility over to somebody else, but it's just something you just eventually have to do.
Yeah, I've really never hired people. I have, but never on the scale of like you or what Jaiden does. I've never had a budget, you know, in quotations. I've had money, but not like a full budget, you know. Everything I've done has been completely out of my own pocket, you know. But even then, like you said, the people I always hire is someone that I know already. And it's someone that I trust. Like, I released a video in January, and my friend Denise, she's also an employee for Jaiden. She is one of our keyframers, and she does a fantastic job. And I was like, hey, you wanna help me? And she was like, yeah, for this much. And I was like, okay, hold on, let me save up. So really, it's just like about finding the right person. It really is. Like, I'm very picky with who draws, these characters, and I want to make sure I pick the right person.
Well, I mean, and that's something that you always
Mhm.
do anyway as an employer, is you look
Yeah.
for the best person for the job. And a lot of the times, sometimes that is someone you already know and you understand their work and who they are as a person.
Mhm.
And you do have, that kind of luxury as a small crew to like look for that, to look for
Yeah.
someone who can work together well with you and other people. And it's nice to just have people who also have their own connections, like, because I got more people on because of my first artist, so
Mhm.
yeah, finding the right person is going to make your job that much easier, and especially someone who has experience in the freelance gig in the first place, that they understand this is how the whole process works. I have to show progress at this point. This is how contracts work. And also, that's something else is that you're gonna have to work out. Is you're gonna have to work out contracts, and that usually requires a lawyer. So be mindful of that. I would absolutely suggest contracts, and that is to not just to protect yourself, but make sure just the whole thing is fair for everybody.
Mhm.
It just protects everybody involved. But you're going to have to set part of that budget aside to get a lawyer to make and, review that initial contract. See, the bigger you get, the more businessy this all gets, the
Mhm.
more serious business this all gets. And you have to think in legal terms. You have to think about contracts and protecting yourself and insurance and all of that kind of stuff.
That's all amazing information, but Brian actually reworded his question.
Oh,
And
Oh no.
what he meant was, how do you start animation when you're at a budget?
Oh no.
oh. Okay, when you're at a budget, well, I mean, you initially just do it yourself. Like,
Really? Yeah.
and if it's a case of you don't think you can afford you can't afford the software or you can't afford the hardware, there are a lot of amazing like cheap tablets out there these days. Like we're living in
There
like the
really
best
is.
environment right now for budding artists, because it used to be a case of Wacom was the only thing and it
Mhm.
cost thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of dollars. And nowadays you can find stuff for like $30. Like I've seen some really, really cheap tablets.
Yeah, like I wish those were around when I started 10 years ago. Like
Mhm.
for real. There's some good stuff.
Yeah, there really is. So, and there are a lot of, I would say, like, I'm not familiar with all of the new budding free software or cheap software. Do you know of any, Jordan?
No, I've stuck with Flash and only Flash my entire
Yeah.
life.
But here's the other thing that people tend to forget is that animation can be created with pencil and paper. Like animation created with cardboard cutouts, like, or construction paper cutouts. Like animation can be stop motion. Like you don't have to have a computer program in order to
Mhm.
make animation. Like why not do something with pencil and paper? Like I actually have an old animatic that I did one summer when I didn't have my setup and I didn't have a full version of Photoshop and I didn't have a tablet. And I was just so wanting to create something that I just drew out everything on paper. And I had like Photoshop elements on my dad's computer. So I was able to at least like piece things together a little bit, but all of it was drawn on paper. So if you really want to create, you will find a way on a budget.
Mhm. Um I mean, you pretty much said it best, really. Do what you can with what you got for now,
Mhm.
really.
And that forces you to get more creative. It forces you to
Exactly.
problem solve. And sometimes like when we are forced to work within a boundary, it forces us to think smarter. to really think outside of the box so we can achieve something great with very, very little.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for going back and answering what he really meant.
Yeah.
Well, I think both questions are fair. Like both versions of that
Yeah,
question
honestly,
are good and fair to put out there and talk about.
it's good we answered both questions, honestly.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, both are very valuable. I hadn't heard any of the information about how, like, when you get the money, what you do with it. So that was really cool. So Jilly asks, do you ever get worn out from drawing so much? And if so, what do you like to do in your spare time?
Yeah, we all
yeah.
we all
Oh,
get
yeah.
worn out from doing this job. One thing that I like to do is I do like to sing. Before COVID, I was regularly doing a weekly voice lesson with my opera coach, and singing is so nice because comparatively to animation, it's instantaneous expression. So like I don't have to sit and work 9 hours out of my day to convey something to an audience when I can just like sing about it right here and right now, and I instantly get that expression of joy, of sadness, of anger.
Yeah.
And that's what's nice about like live performance and being able to do something that is live, is that it just feels instant and it feels fast, and I can just get that out right here, right now. And that's what I love about singing. That's what I love about like theater in general. It's like it's like such a rush to be in front of an audience on a stage. I would actually, if you have the capability to spend any time working on a theatrical production, I say do it. Like I say get a part in a play, because that is going to be like trial by fire. Can you be entertaining in the moment in front of an audience? Like, can you perform and be that? And it helped so much for me in school, all of my theater experience, and it helps me to this day. Like it makes me a better speaker. Like I'm the only reason, because I'm normally an introvert and I'm kind of socially awkward, the only reason I'm sitting here and talking to you guys even barely eloquently is because of that theater experience. So I'd say, yeah, like if you ever get a chance, be part of theater. It's like, it's the art form that is going to last after the apocalypse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like the bomb drops and then 2 days later someone's already putting on a show.
Tangent, but I was in a musical when
Really?
just when I was turning 13. My grandma like signed me up for a musical because I was in choir and I was in honor choir.
I didn't know that about you. That's so cool.
I don't talk much about my singing. I really enjoy singing. I'm a very musical person. I really enjoy music, but yeah, hearing you talk about it just brought back a lot of good memories. And
What
you're right,
musical
like
was it?
it was like Annie Warbucks 2. It was like a sequel.
Huh.
It was really weird. But yeah, I had a solo and everything. But like it really helped me like break out of my shell, like you said, putting you on a stage in front of people, it's like instantaneous. It's like bam, that's it. There's no screwing up now.
Yeah, like if you can make it in theater, you can make it, you know, because that's the ultimate test right there.
But I do get worn out from drawing. I get worn out from animating more than drawing, because I don't draw, I animate constantly. On my spare time, I like to draw. I draw for myself. I haven't been doing it much lately, but just the typical play video games, watch movies, take time for myself. I cuddle with my bird all the time. There will be like a straight 45 minutes where I'm doing nothing but sitting with her. And
yeah,
animals
are really, really nice. Like if you can have an animal to cuddle with, that is such a huge stress relief. Because like I have dogs and it's really, really nice. But otherwise, like apart from singing, I also I will watch things. I don't play too many video games. To me, like it goes back to that whole like feeling bad about not working. For some
Guilt.
reason,
Yeah.
video games just really hit that for me. And I think it's just the fact that it's so easy to get lost in them for hours and hours and hours and not realize it. While with watching a movie, 2 hours and it's done, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I think the only thing is like you can binge a TV series, but still there is a cutoff point where you have to make a decision of, do I watch this, versus a video game where there's no cutoff. There's no, hey, maybe you should like step away from the controller for a second here. But I mean, I do love watching gamers though. Like that's how I stay up to date with gaming is that I watch people like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye and the Game Grumps. Like, so I do really enjoy games. I still kind of have trouble like with not feeling guilty when I personally play them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same here. Like anytime I turn on my PlayStation to play a game, I'm like, ooh, should I? I should be working. But you really have to get over that. That's something you have to get over whenever you need to take time for yourself, you know? And actually I saw this thing, Rebecca, about video games where the video games feel that way because like you said, there's no end point. Like with some games, like games I play Call of Duty, okay, don't judge me. But in Call of Duty, you're just constantly, there's no end. You're constantly just in a battle. You're either going to have a good game or you're going to have a bad game. You may end up with a really bad game, and that just turns you off from the whole idea. And which, like, it feels like you're wasting your time. That's what it is. And for a time when I would play a video game, I felt like I was wasting my time, you know. And that, again, that's something you got to get over. You know, you have to like not feel guilty about things.
Another philosophy about video games that I've heard a lot, and one of the reasons when people figure this out, they think of video games as also like even more of a waste of time when they figure this out. And that is that video games are manufactured success. It is an artificial high of achievement, and it is accomplishing something that is essentially built for you to accomplish, and it gives you that feeling of accomplishment that like maybe getting 1 million views on your channel would get, or like getting a promotion at your job, or getting a compliment from your boss or something like that. So I think a lot of people have that philosophy around video games, and that's what makes it all the more like, oh, this feels like a waste of time, because I just beat a really hard level in Mario Maker that barely anybody has, like a really low percentage of finishing, but this was essentially made for me to finish. And what could I have actually been doing in the 4 hours that it took me to beat this level? Yeah. So, but I'm not to say that like, video games are bad. It's just I think that's just like you threw out that one philosophy.
Yeah.
Another one where people kind of have a hard time sometimes with video games.
Yeah, you have to get over something like that. we keep
gone
going
off topic.
Back.
Yeah.
So Nancy asks, how do you come up with video ideas? Does the overall team have a say in the story? And is the audience a big part of the type of videos they make, like in the things they suggest?
I mean, as far as a team goes, like Jordan, what kind of input are you actually, what's the extent of what you're allowed to put into that?
For Jaiden, I don't know how she comes up with an idea. She has videos lined up for us for the next year. She really does. Like, they might not be, written out. They might not be like have a script ready, but like these are just ideas she has set and ready for us to go. As for like coming up with ideas on my own, really, it really just taking inspiration from everyday life, something funny you and your friend did at work or at school, or, just something you remember from your childhood, something your pet did. You can take inspiration from anything, and that can spark a video. Or like, Rebecca, you tell stories, that's just tell a story. That's a great idea
Yeah.
for a video.
I mean, yeah, I have a huge list in my phone
Hmm.
full of ideas for videos, and I'll come up with them randomly. I'll just be sitting in the doctor's office, and all of a sudden, bam! Oh, wait, that was something funny that happened when I was a kid. And it just comes down to like write down all of your ideas, even if in the moment they sound bad, because you may like walk away from that idea and then come back to it and be like, oh wait, I know how to make that work. Like I have a
Hmm.
brilliant idea to make that work. So I say people come up with a lot of ideas that would be great videos, and they just forget because they don't write it down. And I
Hmm.
mean, like, and I've done that too, where I was like, oh wait, what was that idea that I came up with that I forgot to write down. And I think also it takes kind of a creative brain to say, how do I turn this kind of relatively mundane story into something really entertaining? Because I mean, James's first videos that really made him popular were him just talking about working at Subway.
Yeah.
Nothing grandiose and crazy ever happened in any of those stories, but he was entertaining enough in the way he talked about them that it struck a chord with the audience. And
Hmm.
so you don't have to have huge stories that where big dramatic things happened. You just have to be entertaining in the way you tell them. And I grew up in a family of storytellers where we told family stories over and over and over, and they were funny every single time you heard them. And it just kind of comes down to, how would you tell this story to your friend? Like if you're sitting across from them at a coffee shop and you're like, oh, I got to tell you this hilarious story that happened to me on the way over here. And just how would you tell it to a friend? And that's very much what we do when we tell stories online. I mean, one way to look at it is it's basically just an animated stand-up comedy routine. And you can be telling a story in a stand-up comedy routine, or you could be giving an opinion or an observation on things, because James very often does videos where he's doing more observational stuff than storytelling. And I do more story-driven stuff than observational. And it really is what you're best at and what you're comfortable with. But
Yeah.
but
Like
ultimately, yeah.
Jaiden's moved on from Jaiden went from storytelling to like mental health, and now she's doing video games,
Yeah. So,
and that's just
and
what she wants.
yeah, and that's what's working.
Hmm.
Um, so basically it just comes down to try to find the ideas. Like think back on your childhood, think back on something funny that happened last week, and write them down and try to build the entertainment around those stories or around those observations. Like if you're really opinionated about something and you have a lot of like jokes that could be made about a certain subject, then start writing those down and try to form a script around it. um and Hank Green would tell you, look at what everybody else is talking about and then do it your way. So if everybody is really into Among Us right now, then do a
Yep.
video on Among Us and just do it your way. And that's going to really help you in the initial stages to get an audience, because you're using the algorithm to your advantage to get your initial audience. And then you can start doing things your own way, where you don't have to essentially exploit the algorithm like that and what is popular. So
Nice.
Thank you. There's a lot to cover in video ideation, and you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ethan asks, how much do you guys enjoy collaborating with others?
I love when I can get somebody to do a voice for me, because they always add something. Like they
Oh, yeah.
always do a line a way I never would have thought, and is totally not the way I'm hearing it in my head, but it always ends up better than what I had in my head, or I always am able to come up with a fun idea of portraying the way they've done the line. And I love singing with people. Like I've done like 2 songs with a friend of mine, Caleb Hiles, and it's really fun to collaborate with people who have such powerful talent. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I really enjoy it. And collaborating with people also kind of expands your own like horizons a little bit,
Yeah.
it teaches you things like,
It's a whole nother part of networking too.
yeah. And again, there's that whole get excited about learning new things. Like if you collaborate with more people, then you're going to learn more things from them and vice versa. They'll learn things from you too. So yeah, it's really, it's a lot of fun collaborating with people.
I back in the old days when I was very small, I would ask all my, like, the big people, all the people I looked up to, basically, if they would voice act for me. That's the only kind of collabing I would do. I never went with like animation collabs unless it was like something like for a friend, really. But if it was like just a fan coming at me being like, hey, can you animate in my collab? No, I can't do that. But like voice acting is so much fun to do. Lately I can't do it because I don't really have a good setup, but I love it when people come to me asking if I could be a voice in their cartoons. It's so much fun because I remember being that exact person, wanting, someone like way back in the day. I don't know if you guys know who Rice Pirate is, but I got Rice Pirate in a cartoon. His real name's Mick Lauer. And that was like one of the biggest deals to me was getting him in a cartoon. And now there are people who do that for me. And it's such a nice feeling.
Well, and it's nice to be at the level where you can take on the people that come to you and ask those things. But there will, like, if you got to a point where you had like 1 million subscribers, it becomes very hard to say yes to every single one. Like that's
Yes.
the unfortunate thing, is that it comes to a point where you don't have enough time in your day. And I miss the times where a lot of small YouTubers would come to me and say, Becca, can you like voice act this real quick? And I get a whole bunch of them together. I get like 4 of them together and just like do one big session in front of the microphone. And now I get so many requests. It's just, I couldn't keep up with all of them. That would be all I do all day, every day, unfortunately. So it was nice. Like that's a nice place to be. Like that's one of the benefits of being a smaller person who, you don't have the entire world yelling at you on Twitter and in your emails all at once. And I kind of miss that about those days,
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Anonymous asks, how do I not come off as selfish or a jerk when networking? So related to our previous one. They say, I get really anxious about it, even though I really want to get to know them.
That's an interesting thing, because a lot of that has to do with being a good conversationalist, like being able to talk to people. And for a lot of artists, social skills are not our strong point.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely difficult for a lot of us. And I would just say, like, an easy trick to be a good conversationalist is just to ask them questions about themselves. Like if you get people talking about themselves, then they walk away from a conversation with you like thinking it was a good conversation. But try to also, in the midst of that, say, oh, because you, like, if you ask them like a technical question and like, so when you do this in your videos, how do you do that? Like what system do you use, or what, like, how did you come about with that idea? And they start to answer, and you kind of put your 2 cents in there as well and say, because when I did it for my video, I did this, that, and I think your way is really good too. Like you kind of got to like show your worth, but also like keep a good conversation and ask them a lot about themselves. And because if you push too much, then you really can run the risk of like putting them off. And it really all comes down to practice, like practice talking to people. I used to be terrible at it. And going to VidCon for years and being the smaller person and talking to the bigger people and having years to practice it, that is what helped in the long run. And that's what makes it easier for me these days, is that you can just be casual with these people and it's not a big deal when you talk to them, and they're that much more comfortable if you don't act like a fan. Like that's another key, is like if you really want to network with people, don't act like a fan, don't ask for an autograph, don't ask for a selfie, act like a colleague, act like you are on the same level as them. Like have confidence in yourself, be kind, don't have an ego, but kind of see them as an equal. you know, and treat them as an equal. And I mean, and be just be nice, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I was gonna say literally just be nice, be yourself. Like,
yeah,
and if you end up like becoming friends with, you know, that person or someone who's bigger, or you like the previous question, get a collab with someone that's big, you shouldn't oh, excuse me. Whoa, dry throat out of nowhere. You shouldn't like brag about it either.
no,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, oh, I got the odd ones out in a video.
yeah.
Like, don't go rambling about it, you know, don't brag.
Well,
Really
and
just,
yeah,
yeah,
like,
like you said it best, Rebecca, you really did.
well, and also don't, networking is good for collaboration and for
Mhm.
business, and it's also good for friends, but don't try to force friendship onto
Yeah.
someone. Like, sometimes your relationship with another YouTuber is going to be strictly colleague, it's going to be strictly professional. You may get them for one collaboration, you may get them for multiple, and you end up friends. Like, it just don't try to force anything onto anybody you're trying to, you know, network with or collaborate with, and just kind of yeah, be yourself, be chill, be relaxed.
Mhm.
But yeah, but don't force a friendship on anyone. Don't try to get too personal too quick. But yeah, and also
Yeah.
don't brag about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That has all been amazing, and that was actually it for our Q&A. If anyone
Awesome.
else wants to put in some last-minute questions, they're welcome to, but doesn't look like there's anything at the moment.
I had fun.
I had a lot of fun too, and we got to talk about a lot and put a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. Like, I even feel like I learned a thing or two just hearing what you had to say, Rebecca.
Well, and you too. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you brought a lot to the table from your position as someone who didn't go to school and someone who actually like maintains your living working via a bigger YouTuber, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great to hear from all perspectives, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting hearing your perspective as well, because Jaiden and I are friends, and I never talk to her about this kind of stuff. I never hear about, you know, what it's like being on the other end. You know, when I talk to Jaiden, I try to keep work away from it unless I need, you know, a
Well, I
work-related
think
answer to
it,
a question.
I mean, if I were in her position, I'd be very grateful for that. I honestly would be, because I'd just be happy that I had a friend, you know?
Yeah, she's very lovely. She's a wonderful person.
She is a
What
good
do you
egg.
want? My bird wants something. I don't know.
Attention.
I'm trying to give it to her, bro.
So, all right. So I don't see any other questions in the chat or anything. So I think, are we good?
Yeah, so if no one else has anything, then thank you guys so much for
Thank you.
coming out, spending time out of your day to talk
Yeah.
to all of us art nerds and geeks and
Well,
answer some
we're
questions. We're so
speaking
grateful.
to our people, trust me.
Yeah.
We're just as much of our geeks as you guys are.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, thank you
Brian-
so much. All right, thank you guys for coming out to this as well.
Madison got
Yes,
it.
it's
Brian
so
was
it was
gonna
recorded.
be- It'll be on
Oh,
YouTube.
Who's talking?
You can go. There's lag, and I didn't. You can go first.
You're good. It was put in the chat, but this was recorded and it will be up on our YouTube channel when available. So just in case, if you didn't catch the beginning of it or the end of it, go. And we also have other videos on there as well. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you at the next event.
Thank you guys again.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's
Bye,
been amazing.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.